Let's get started. Chapter 19. We are going through chapter 19, which is organisms and their environment, and we want to know what this chapter is all about. So, can you all write chapter 19, organisms and their environment? Everybody, can you please write these notes and send me at the end of the lesson? I'll put the link. Failure to do so, then I don't know. I'll tell you what's up. But I need everybody to put these notes. So I'm going to only take 2 days. I'm going to move as extremely fast. Tell you very important things, and you have to write them down. Okay, let me help Akiana to see my screen. Why is it not showing you my screen? Can you see it now? Okay, good. Can everybody see my screen? All right, I'll be moving fast. So let's move very fast. I'll check the register at the end. For the sake of time, I have to start moving, and let's get to work. We have serious targets, so I was thinking about it during the day, and I'm like, okay, no, I need to push these guys. Let's quickly go through it. So first part, this is day one. So just write day one, and then I'll give you the link to submit your notes. You just take pictures. I'll show you at the end again. For those who don't know how to submit, I'll show you at the end so that you know how to submit this. Right. Part one. So I'm going to do and their environment. How do things relate with the environment? The first thing that we're going to be knowing is the first part that you're going to know is going to be food chains, food webs, and pyramids. Okay? And pyramids. This is the first section of this chapter. Then we'll do the second section. We'll see tomorrow. But I'll finish with pyramids tomorrow maybe. And this chapter I can say food chains and food webs will be the first one, then I'll do pyramids tomorrow. Let me do it like that. Food chains and food webs, sorry for making you cancel. Food chains and food webs will be our focus, and then we'll look into food pyramids tomorrow. Are you ready? Right. Let's go. What is a food chain? Okay, that's the first thing that everybody must know. Everybody here must know that a food chain, okay, there are many definitions that I'll keep giving you as we go through the chapter until we get to the very end, okay? But if I put it, the best definition would be a food chain is a single pathway. That's the difference between a food chain and a food web that you're going to see. It is a single pathway that shows, okay, it is a single pathway that shows the direction of energy transfer, okay, between organisms. It is a single pathway that shows the this is very important. Every single thing you're learning here is going to be very important. A food chain shows you the direction in which energy moves. Okay? It shows you the direction in which energy moves within organisms. I'm not going to over-explain. I don't want to over-explain. But what you must know, there are key things to be known for this, is that when you are studying a food chain, you are not studying the direction of eating. Your arrows don't show your arrows don't show to say this is this one and then this is this one, this one. Do you understand? It's not who eats who. It's how does energy move. So you don't start from your lion and you point from lion to what the lion eats. Then from what the lion eats to, no, that's wrong. Because if you start from the lion to what it eats, you are saying the lion is giving that thing energy, which is completely false. The lion does not eat something to give that thing energy. No. The lion gets energy from what it eats. So it should be from what is being eaten to then who is eating. So arrows don't show who eats who. In a food chain, arrows should start at grass, because that's the first one. I'll teach you about trophic levels. But you don't start at the lion. Am I being heard? So a food chain, this is the most important line, shows the direction of energy transfer. You'll be very good if you know that. That a food chain will show the direction of energy transfer. Okay? We'll see there's a do questions. Okay? From one between organisms. And you can say starting with the producer. That's why I said you start at grass. Although grass is not the main thing, but we usually start with the producer, the grass. Although the original source of energy is the sun, we usually start with grass though. Okay? Example of a basic food chain. Here's an example of a basic food chain. Grass, then energy comes from grass to whatever eats grass. Here, if you'd say from grass to earthworm, and then from earthworm to a mouse or whatever, okay? Or even to say grass to mouse, then from mouse to owl, okay? Then from an owl to a hawk or whatever. Are we together? Even if you say grass to mouse to owl, this is a food chain. It shows you, it's a single pathway which is showing you the direction in which energy is transferred. Okay? So that is it. It doesn't show you who eats who. If your arrows are pointing the wrong direction, you're in serious trouble. Your arrows start from the producer. Right. So let's talk about the sources of energy, because that's something that I think you should all know. Then we'll keep going deeper, 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 deeper. Okay? Yes. Now we'll go to the second part, which we say energy sources. Okay? So source and transfer of energy. Let's go. Source of energy. If we say we're talking about the source of energy, then we'll be talking about the sun. So it's the original source of energy that we know that in the food chain now energy will be now moving from one organism to the next organism to the next organism. Yes? So let's go. We'll be saying here, we'll be saying transfer of energy. Write with me to say the original or principal source of energy is the sun. Okay? Grass then traps sunlight during photosynthesis. Okay? The energy then moves or flows through organisms or through living organisms until it is eventually transferred to the environment as heat. So a food chain shows the direction of energy transfer. The arrows in the food chain, they'll be showing you the direction that energy is being transferred. And we said it comes from the sun, so you can't have your energy coming from a lion. Hey, no. Okay, it's from the sun to the grass, but when we do our food chain, we don't normally put the sun. Okay, we start at the producer, of which our producer is grass. We'll see grass or trees or whatever. Okay? Anything that has photosynthesis. Are we together? Students? Yes, that will be a produce. That is where we are going to be starting our food chain. Then, once you're done with the food chain, then we're going to go to a higher thing, which is going to be a food web. And we'll see the difference between that. Okay? Right. Now, okay, good. Now, before we get to that, there are certain things that I need all of you to know, and this is what we call trophic levels. I'm going to need all of you to know what we call trophic levels. Okay? Can you write trophic levels? Now, and say, right, let me give you time to just write the word trophic levels. Can you all write it? Trophic levels are feeding levels in a food chain. Trophic levels are the feeding levels in a food chain. Can you see? Now, you should know 4 trophic levels, although there can be 5 if you talk about what they call quaternary consumer. Quaternary consumer, you can talk about it, but usually you guys don't have to know about it. So what I want you to really know about is the 4 trophic levels: producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and we'll be done. Then I'll need you to know other things that we call the herbivore, the carnivore, and decomposer, and show you where they fit in this word trophic levels, okay? According to a table that I need you to know. So we say trophic level, make a table, and say trophic level, it means the feeding level. Then we'll see, we'll do some food chains where you'll be using it. So I want you to say trophic level. Then I want you to say meaning. Then I want you to say example. Trophic level just means the feeding level. And we know that all we are trying to show you is the direction of energy transfer. So nothing is complicated here. Nothing is complicated. We start one with producer. And we go to 2, primary consumer. It just means it does not make its own food. So anything else that is not a producer has to be a consumer. Okay? Then I want you to say 3, secondary consumer. Then 4, tertiary consumer. You don't have to know a quaternary consumer, okay? Are we together? Are you with me, students? Good. So a producer has to do photosynthesis. If it can't do photosynthesis, then it's not a producer. Okay? So makes its own food. Okay, how? By photosynthesis. So if they ask you to identify the producer, look for the thing that does photosynthesis. Okay? Are we together? So, yes, producers are usually what? Plants, right? Usually plants. Then we can put an example of producers. You say grass. Okay, so makes their own food by photosynthesis using sunlight. And they are usually plants. For example, they ask for producers, you're going to say grass, then you're going to say trees, then you're going to say any other green plant, okay? Green plants, even if it's not grass, and algae. These are all producers. Are we together? Yes. Then we go, so remember, just know the examples. Grass, trees, green plants, these are producers because they photosynthesize. They produce glucose through photosynthesis, so they make their own food. Primary consumers, these are usually herbivores. So usually herbivores. So how do I know primary consumers? What do they do? They're usually herbivores. In other words, animals that eat plants only. Are we together? These are most of the primary consumers. Animals that eat plants. So just think of animals that eat plants. A goat or a cow or a rabbit. These are primary consumers. Okay? Or a mouse. A mouse eats different types of plants, but it eats plants. It's everything it eats is a plant. If you look at it, it's a plant. It doesn't eat other animals. So this is a primary consumer. They feed on producers. So they eat plants only. In other words, they eat producers. Producers produce their own food. Consumers consume others. They eat others. But if it's a primary consumer, it feeds on plants. It feeds on producers. Okay? Then, if it's a secondary consumer, then these usually feed on other animals. Or, yes, they feed on other animals that will be eating plants. So you can say here, secondary consumers, they are predators or carnivores, whatever you want to call them. Here, they are carnivores. So usually, carnivores or predators. But the difference between, listen closely, the difference between, so both a secondary and a tertiary consumer, these are animals that eat other animals. A primary consumer will not eat another animal. A primary consumer is an animal, yes, but it doesn't eat other animals. It eats the producers. Are we together? Yes. So tertiary consumer, the difference between a secondary consumer and a tertiary consumer is that a secondary consumer feeds on herbivores. It feeds on animals that eat plants. Then a tertiary consumer is now one which feeds on other animals that eat other animals. Are we together? Huh? Students? Are we together? Yes. So when we talk about tertiary consumers, we're talking about things like what? We're talking about things that eat others. Okay, I'm going to make a nice chain for you. Let's say you have grass. Grass, then what animal eats grass? Let's say you take a grasshopper. So we can put a grasshopper. Then frogs eat grasshoppers. So they are primary consumers. They're secondary consumers, I mean. Because they are eating animals that eat grass. But when you bring a snake will eat a frog. So that means a snake is now a tertiary consumer. So I'm going to make examples of a food chain for you. There are things that are unrealistic that I don't want to see. If something is secondary, it's the third in line. So it eats grass-eating things. These are animals or predators that feed on primary consumers. That feed on primary consumers. Okay, that feed on primary consumers. You can put e.g. Yes, examples. Yes, somebody's raising their hand. Yes, I'm going to explain it to you. I'll mention it. Okay. I'll mention the quaternary. Quaternary will now be things like eagles and hawks and things that you can just think of something that can eat a snake. It can qualify as a quaternary consumer. I'll give you an example of one which gets up to quaternary. It's not a problem. Okay. What are human beings? If human beings are on a food chain, what will they be? Yes, we can qualify as tertiary consumers. We eat chickens. Chickens eat grasshoppers. Grasshoppers eat grass. So grass is the producer. Grasshoppers are the primary consumers. Chickens are the secondary consumers. Human beings are tertiary consumers. Yes, we can be tertiary consumers. Well done. Let's go. So here we would say that feed. We said secondary consumers are animals that feed on primary consumers. Right? Hello? Right. E.g., if it's a secondary consumer, it's nothing complicated. It's not a sophisticated animal in any way. Snake. I can even say frog. Okay, I'd love to say frog. Small birds. We can put most of them here. Small birds. Let me say frog. Small birds. Chickens. Okay, so it's like that's what I want you to have most. A list of animals that you can put as your primary consumers, as your a list of things you can put as your producers, as your primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and quaternary consumers. That's the most important thing that I want you to have. Okay. Here, it's usually carnivores or predators as well. Usually carnivores or predators that feed on secondary consumers. Secondary consumers. Okay, I want you to just master this once and for all. Thank you to whoever suggested that we also just do quaternary whatever. Okay, so you can put a lot more other things here on thing. They like to put, you can put a fox, you can put fish, spider, okay? You can put a lizard. You can put some small snakes. The fish that we'll be putting here are the carnivorous fish. The carnivorous fish, which means a fish which eats others. Are we together? Like jellyfish. Oh, I tried to fix it. You still can't see it? Ooh, let me fix that. Should be able to see it. All right. So let me I'll give you some easy rules that you're going to use, okay? To know how you can qualify something as a tertiary consumer, as a secondary, depending on what it eats. Here, I want you to put on tertiary consumers, these are now scary things. Don't put on secondary consumers, I beg. Secondary consumers, not really. On tertiary consumers, that's when I want to see the scary things. All the scary things start to appear. Things like what? Snake. Things like what? Hyena. Okay? Things like what? Crocodile. All these things are going to eat on frogs, chickens, these things. Things like what? Lion sometimes. Okay? Lion can be secondary and it can be primary. And it can be tertiary. Things can go in between, one level to another. If it's birds, you can put an eagle. You can put a hawk. Okay? You can put a shark. You can put a shark. All these as tertiary consumers. Secondary consumers, I said spider, frog, small birds, chickens, lizards, small things, tiny small things. Some birds that eat insects. If it's a bird that will eat an insect, then it will be a secondary consumer. Because a secondary consumer is eating things that eat grass. So it can eat a grasshopper, it can eat anything that eats grass. It can eat tiny things that are eating grass. Are we together? It can eat a butterfly, it can eat a snail, and also it can eat bigger things like a rabbit or a deer or things like that, or a goat. It can eat a goat. That means it will be on the secondary consumer. Remember, the primary consumer, don't let me down. Primary consumer, grasshopper. Primary consumer, I can put rabbit. Everybody is good at that. Secondary consumer, think of the things that eat grasshoppers. That's a secondary consumer. It's a small bird. It's things like that. You can even put things like cats. They can qualify there. Because you find cats hunting grasshoppers the whole day. Right, guys? You find cats hunting rats the whole day. Your rats are primary consumers. They eat producers. Now let's go to the last one, which is a quaternary consumer. Okay? Let's go to the last one. And say, what then will be the quaternary? I'll give you a rule, by the way, to remember. These are top predators that can usually not be eaten by anything. So if you are something that nothing eats you, then you are usually a quaternary consumer. Okay? Strong, so it's like you'll be going with the strength of the predator. We saw that in here you can put on tertiary consumer, you can put fish, but it would be larger fish. Okay? Large fish. But I don't want to see anything that can be eaten as a quaternary consumer. Are we together? Here you can put large fish, you can put shark and stuff. They are dangerous. When it comes to quaternary consumer, these are going to be what? The great white shark, tiger for quaternary consumer now. Put tiger. Put polar bear. Okay? Put human being. We can be very deadly. No one can eat us many of the times. If one person has been eaten, oh, what a big disaster. We have an eagle. Things like that, okay? Orca, do you know about an orca? An orca whale? A big one, do you know about it? Things like that. These are quaternary consumers. Okay? But remember, when you're doing trophic levels, you can have the same animal being in different trophic levels. It just depends on the food chain you have made. It all depends on the food chain you have made. So it's going to depend. But usually we've given you some hints. So let me give you some rules. Some important rules that you can use. An easy rule. Okay? Write this. Easy rules to use when I did. Or maybe before I say that, let me say the statement which I told you right now. NB. The same animal can be in different feeding levels or trophic levels. Come on, Mr. iPad. What are you doing now? I know you're not seeing my screen. I'm fixing. The same animal can be in different trophic levels depending on the food chain. Depending on the food chain. Are we together? Depending on the food chain. Let's put an example. Example. Okay. Example of this. Example. Let's say food chain number 1 can have grass, of course, we started grass, then maybe grasshopper, or let's say rabbit as our primary consumer, then fox as our secondary consumer. So that means from here you can say what? What level is the fox? The fox is what here, class? Fox is a secondary consumer, right? Is it true? Good. In this food chain, the fox is a secondary consumer. Let's put another food chain. Food chain number 2. What if I do it like this? Grass, then it goes to grasshopper. Then obviously grasshopper is eaten by things like frogs, so it goes to a frog. Then from frog it goes to a snake. Then a snake is eaten by, let's say, by a fox. Can you see? So now you can say the fox is a tertiary. It's at level 4. It's at level 5 even. Or let me put it like this. Let me say this: the fox eats a frog to make it a tertiary consumer. It can, if it wants. Can you see this? So it becomes a tertiary consumer. This is a different food chain. Okay? Now, you can even have a food chain where you have algae, then small fish eats the algae because some fish eat algae, right? So small fish eats the algae, then a big fish comes to eat the small fish, then a shark eats that big fish. Or you can have algae, then a small fish eats that algae, then a little bit of a bigger fish eats that small fish, then a bigger one eats that big fish, then the shark comes and eats that. That means the shark is on a different level. So don't worry about that part. But what we do know is that when it comes to animals that can go all the way to be quaternary, we will never have something that is being eaten by something be a quaternary consumer. What are you talking about? When you get to a quaternary consumer, nothing really is. These are the top predators. Very few animals can eat them, okay? It's like a tiger, a polar bear. Think of those wild, big, top predators. Those are quaternary consumers. Are we together? Yes. Those that get to tertiary will be strong as well. So there'll be strong predators. But when you get to quaternary, you are the top predator of all. Okay? Are we together? If you're a shark, you'll be the great white shark. Are we together, everybody? So let me give you easy rules, eh? Easy rules to remember these guys. Easy rules to use to choose trophic levels that an animal can be. Let's do it. 1, producer. Here's the rule that I want you to know. I told you already, if it photosynthesizes, then it is a producer. If it is green or 2 photosynthesizes, when it's green, obviously it also means it photosynthesizes, or just if it makes its own food, okay? Makes its own food, then it is a producer. Then primary consumers if it mainly eats grass or leaves or plants, yes, like peanuts or what, or maize. The notes. Okay, no problem. No problem. If it mainly eats any of this or algae, okay, you find this in fish. Primary consumers as fish will be eating algae. If it mainly eats these, then it is a primary consumer. A rat is a primary consumer. It eats plants. It eats peanuts, maize, things like that. So it is a primary consumer. Bananas, it can eat them if you leave them. Okay? So it mainly eats those things. Are we together? Secondary, we know that they eat primary. So secondary, here's your rule. Secondary consumer. How do you know? We know that by definition, a secondary consumer is a predator that eats primary consumers. Then it will be a secondary consumer. A tertiary consumer is a carnivore or predator that feeds on secondary consumers. Then it will be a tertiary consumer. That's how you define. But this is a rule to help you know which animals actually do that. Because knowing the rule is not knowing the animals. So how do you try to think of the animals when I'm trying to give you a rule? So here, to try and think of primary consumers, look for something that eats grass or algae or plants. Something that eats these things will be a primary consumer. as long as it eats these things. It will be eating these particular things. Grasshopper, rat. We put those things, and I made sure you know them. Those will be your primary consumer. Even if you put a rabbit, even if you put a mouse. Mouse and rat is the same thing. If you put a cow, it's a primary consumer, yes. If you put a goat, that's fine, because that's what they eat mostly. They eat leaves. Don't think about the size. Think about what they feed on. When you come to, are we together? Have you heard me nicely? When you come to secondary consumer, usually, right, to say if it eats things like, if it eats small things like insects, if it eats small animals, okay, insects or small animals, or if it eats herbivores, if it just eats things that feed on grass, okay, then it is a secondary consumer. Okay, it can qualify depending on the food chain. Okay, then it can be anything that can eat these can be a secondary consumer. Are we together? Are we together? Yes. And for secondary consumers, we have things like frogs. Even a lion can come to be a secondary consumer because it can be eating your cows and whatever. Even a hyena can qualify because it can eat your goats. Are we together? Yes, these can qualify to be secondary consumer. But usually, when we put our secondary consumer, we will put things like small fish, spider, frog, lizard, snakes, some snakes, the birds that eat insects. Birds that eat insects usually will be the secondary consumers. They are feeding on small things. Stop feeding. If it's feeding on small things, then hey, you are a secondary consumer, man. You feed on small things. You feed on insects. And you feed on tiny animals. Okay? These are usually not deadly things here. In most of the food chains, things that you see on step 3 are not deadly. They are frogs. How can you fear that? A lizard. They eat small things. They want small things. Or a fox. Or a wild cat. Or a cat. These are going to feed mainly on herbivores. They're going to feed on insects. On small animals. So they are secondary consumer. But once you go to tertiary and quaternary, you are now on larger beasts. Tertiary consumer. Right, tertiary consumer. It's like level 4, for those who don't know. Okay? This is step number 4. Will be a tertiary consumer. Okay? If it hunts for big things like, if it hunts for other carnivores, it eats things that eat others. Okay? It eats with secondary consumers. It eats meat eaters. It eats meat eaters. Right? Or we can say, what else can we say it eats? It eats predators. For example, a hawk. It looks for snakes. It can eat snakes. Even a crocodile, it can eat fish that eats others. It can eat things that eat others, right? Hello? So, what will it be? It will be qualifying as a tertiary consumer. Even a snake, it eats frogs. Remember things that were here. If you want to get to tertiary, remember the secondary. Secondary will be frogs, lizard. They can't eat grass. They hunt. Spider. But these things you're talking about, they are also eaten by other things. Birds that eat insects. Birds eating insects. Things like these are secondary consumers. Now it's time for them to be eaten. So you put stronger predators now. I want to see on tertiary stronger predators. What are some stronger predators here? Hawks, serious birds, eh? A hawk and an eagle is almost the same thing, only that an eagle can go higher. So you can put hawk and you can put eagle. These things can come and eat frogs. They can come and eat snakes. So you can have other snakes as well that eat frogs and stuff. Lizard. Right? You can put a crocodile. You can put a shark. Right? It's always good when you look at these animals to then look at when we say that you have a hawk as your tertiary consumer, what would it be eating? It's good to try and have ideas in your head for that. For eagle and crocodile as a tertiary consumer eating what? You understand? Should know its diet. It's almost like that's good study of biology. But remember, when you come to quaternary, they are the top. Top. Okay? So that last one, just say top predators will be your quaternary consumers. Are we together? So when we put crocodile here, it eats fish, it eats birds, it eats smaller predators. So if it's eating smaller predators like fish and birds, then it will be a tertiary. It can also be secondary if it is eating things like antelope. Do you understand? So crocodile can also be here if it eats things that eat grass, like an antelope. Do you hear me? When you put an eagle as a tertiary consumer, you are putting it eating fish that eat others. You are putting it eating snakes. You are putting it eating frogs. You are putting it eating birds that eat insects. Other birds. Are we together? Eagle, yes. Even hawk, yes. So deadly, that thing called a hawk. It will make you sick when you see it hunting. I once saw it. It's so ruthless. Okay? It can eat frogs. It can eat snakes. And fish that eat others. Are we together? Do you know that fish eat each other? Okay. So, you can think of the things that it is. Shark, when they are deep down on as quaternary, they'll be eating other fish. Shark can eat other fish. Many fish can be eaten by many fish can be eaten by sharks. Sharks can eat seals. Do you guys know seals? Yes. Sharks can eat those, so you have them as down there. That'll be what happens. Right. We'll go more thing. So just remember things like that. Top predators, we put the top predators, right? He said a human. A human can come and eat crocodile tail. A human can eat serious things that are tertiary. Humans can eat them. Okay? How are humans can eat these? Humans can eat shark as fish. I don't know. Humans can eat snakes. Do humans eat snakes? Yes, I remember hearing something like that. I've never come across that across my traveling. Neither do I think I want to be close to such. But then it is possible they can. Crocodile, humans eat crocodile tail. It just tastes like fish, guys. You can find it, I think, at Ocean Basket or what. Yeah, it just tastes like fish. So when you're eating that, if you're eating a crocodile, my friend, you're a quaternary consumer. Okay? If you're on that level, yes, that's a quaternary consumer. Are we together here on trophic levels? Yes, they can interchange. So when you see it get to a quaternary consumer, it will be a serious food chain. Okay, it will be a serious food chain. All right, now I don't want to keep going for too long. I want to finish in 30 minutes time. So now let's go to the next thing, which we should do. And that is going to be food web. So we are now doing the second part that I said we should finish today, which is now food web. Then we'll talk about food pyramids, and I'll teach you a very special word which will help you know you are in this chapter when you do serious questions. They can give you basic questions on these trophic levels and what, or where we are going, where we'll learn about population. The word population. If you find yourself in a biology exam and you meet the word population, and you are not in geo, you are in biology, then you know you are doing chapter 19. Are we together? This is the chapter. Once you see that word population, you turn it on. Yes, Michelle. Yes, Michelle. Michi? Okay, who called me? Oh, you said yes, okay. Now, why do we now need to learn about a food web? What is a food web? Okay? A food web is a network of interconnected food chains. What is a food chain? It's a single path, right? A single path that shows the transfer of energy in organisms, right? From one organism to another, from starting with your producer. It's a single path. That's the key thing there for a food chain. A food web is a network of interconnected food chains. A network of interconnected food chains is a food web. Okay? Why is it important? I'm going to give you why it is important, but I'll just give you a common sense version. What you must know, you don't get to write this, but they may ask you why it is important. I'll give you what to write. But what you must know is that in real life, animals do not eat just one thing. So a food chain is way too unrealistic. It shows grasshopper being eaten by a frog, frog being eaten by a snake. But snakes don't just eat frogs. They eat a lot more. So if you just have a simple food chain, you are using one possible path. What about the other possible paths? So food web now shows it connects the food chains. Okay? One organism, it will be showing the different things that it can get its energy from. In other words, the different things it can eat. Do you understand? When food chains connect, then you have a food web. Are we together? Food chains connected together. So food chains in real life, food chains connect together. So, forming a food web. So, we want a more realistic picture. And food webs show something that is very important, and that is called interdependence. So, when I want you to write, let's write here why food webs are important before we talk about interdependence. Why food webs are important. Why do we need food webs? What do they tell us? What do they show us? Why food webs are important. Let's put to see why would food webs now be important then? Akiana, can you see my screen right now? Okay, good. Right. Why food webs are important? Number one, they are more realistic than food chains. So food webs are just interconnected food chains. Don't make it complicated. Okay? They show something which is true, which is called interdependence. What you must know is that many organisms depend on each other. Okay? When one thing is affected, several other things are affected. Several other populations are affected. It's because there is interdependence in real life. So things are connected. They are interconnected. This eats this, which also eats that, and also eats that. Do you understand? So when grass decreases, you see earthworms decrease. You see when earthworms decrease. Let's write. Let me write thing. Say interdependence. Interdependence is a big one. It's a big word. Interdependence refers to organisms depending on each other for survival. When we say depending on each other, I don't really like this word because it's like to say humans depend on chickens for survival. That would mean you'll be eating the chickens. So it's so unfair, right? To survive. But it is what it is. So you'll be depending on this, and something else depends on you. Then something else depends on something. It's just a chain of things eating each other. Okay? And what makes it a food web is that an animal is going to be energy will be transferring from one thing to several other things. So it's like when we talk about it as eating, different things can eat one thing, and that makes it a food web. Do you understand now? Let me give you an example of a food web. You have, remember, arrows will be showing you what? Direction of energy transfer, right? So you can start at grass, then you go from grass to anything, to caterpillar, and also you can come from grass and go to earthworm. So once this is like this, it is already a food web. It's not a food chain, because a food chain has to be a single path. Once you have this, it's already a food web. And you can show it go to a rabbit. Right. From an earthworm, it can go to a mouse. In other words, this is the direction of energy. So an earthworm can be eaten by a mouse, or it can be eaten by a frog. So you can do it like this and show it go to a frog. Then this mouse can be eaten by a hawk, that bird I told you about, or the frog will be eaten by a hawk. Don't show your arrow from hawk to frog. You are not telling the truth. Energy moves from frog to hawk. Pardon? You can't see my screen. I don't know what is happening. I don't know what's happening. Maybe it's a network thing. If I do it like this. You still can't see it. Wait. Ooh. Let me help you. Can you see it? Can you see it now? Okay. Again, if it keeps fighting you, you should check also my YouTube thing. Okay? If it keeps fighting, you should also check my YouTube. So, why are food webs important? They are more realistic. And they show interdependence. Animals depending on each other for survival. So, it'll be multiple food chains like this. Are we together? Then it becomes a food web. Network of interconnected food chains. Okay? So you can show the frog, then you can show from rabbit to a fox, or the fox can also eat a frog like I showed you, or the fox can also eat a mouse. So it's like things like that, or you can have it like this, yeah. From caterpillar and from earthworm, you can also show something called a sparrow. Are we together? Good. This is all showing interdependence. Should we move on? Frog to fox. Yeah. This now just becomes a food web. Many, many food chains interconnected, okay? Yes, that is now what we'll be calling a food web. So let me just put an example of interdependence. If earthworms decrease, let's say here, if earthworm in this diagram decrease, then what do you expect? If earthworm decrease, what do you expect to happen to this food web? A lot of things should change here. A lot of things would change just if earthworm would decrease. You would have more grass. If earthworm decrease, then grass would increase. Okay? Because there's less earthworm to eat the grass. But then at the same time, frogs would decrease. So frogs would decrease because there's less earthworm for the frogs to eat the things. Then if the frogs decrease, then you can have things that eat frog will also decrease, whatever it is. Could be hawks or whatever. Okay? Even if earthworm decrease, you also expect not just this, you also expect the mice. So the mice would decrease. And this, because frogs and mice have decreased, you can have hawks decrease. So this shows you that there is interdependence. A food web shows you that these different organisms are depending on each other. If one population is affected, that's where this is going to lead to. Where one population is affected, then we'll start to follow the impacts of that. Okay? So don't say it dies. Okay? Do not say the animals die out. No. That's wrong. Okay? Just say population decreases. Are we together? Just say the population of that thing decreases. We'll talk more about population to study the human impact. What we want to see is human impact on all these things. So let's put here human impact on food webs. Let's see what can happen. Human impact on food webs. First of all, how can humans disturb a food web, something like this? Because what we've seen is that if one of these populations is affected, several get affected. Look, the only thing that was affected was earthworm. But look, it got all the way to hawks because the grass would increase, yes, but the frogs would decrease, the mice would decrease, and then the hawks would decrease. Do you understand? Yes. So how can humans disturb a food web? You just affect one thing. You either introduce a new species which will change everything, or you do some pollution, or you overhunt. Yeah? How can a human disturb a food web? The humans will disturb one thing. Now, because of interdependence, you have a knock-on effect. The one thing you have affected will cause the others to be affected. That's how it happens. So you can say, humans can disturb food webs. Remember, animals depend on each other for survival. And when they're interconnected like that, we call it a food web. So humans can disturb it by 1, overhunting. 2, deforestation. 3, introducing new species. 4, pollution. You are affecting a food web because these animals were interdependent, interconnected. And one population decreases, so the others will decrease. So this here that a human would have done, this can cause knock-on effects. So overhunting shouldn't happen. Deforestation shouldn't happen. Shouldn't introduce new species. Okay? Pollution shouldn't happen. All this can affect the food chain. And this can cause knock-on effects. Okay? What do you mean by knock-on effects? One change affecting many organisms. Are we together? Students, are we together? All right. So let's put some common exam questions and then you guys would be fine for here. I'm going to go to pyramid and do some pyramids tomorrow. We'll do the pyramids of numbers and the pyramids of biomass. We'll see what are the differences there, things that you must know, the dangerous things. So I'm just going to do about 3 exam questions or questions, example questions. Example questions. Number 1. What is the original source of energy in a food chain? Can you see? Right. Number 2. Let's put another important question. What do arrows represent in a food chain? Number 3, define a food verb. I mean, they can also ask us to define a food chain or whatever. The questions are a lot. You can do any of these questions, they can come. We'll see. Right. What happens? This is a good thing about a food verb. What happens if one organism decreases in a food verb? What happens if one organism decreases in a food verb? Let's put solutions. Number 1. What is the original source of energy in a food chain? It is the sun. Once they say original, it's the sun. Number 2. What do arrows represent? The transfer of energy, not who is who. The transfer of energy. Arrows represent transfer of energy. That's a big point. People, don't make your arrows face the wrong direction. Define a food web. A network. A network of interconnected food chains. A network of interconnected food chains. That's a food web. Are we together? All right. Question 4. What happens if one organism decreases? Other populations. That's the question here. What happens if one organism decreases? I think, yes. Other populations are affected. Okay, you can say they decrease or increase. Don't say they die out. No. Okay, are affected. And this is due, you can say due to interdependence. A food web tells you, hey, there is interdependence. Don't think affecting one population will end there. It can cause some serious knock-on effects. You will disturb an entire food web. There is something called interdependence. Please remember that. So you can humans can have an impact on the food web. Remember, that's where we took you to. We'll see this even more, right? We'll see is today we just saw human impacts on food webs, but we'll get even deeper with this and see how those populations can be affected. Are we together? Okay. Don't let me down, right? Okay. Good. Other populations affected. Right. Well done. So that's it for here. We're going to continue tomorrow, finish this biology, and we take it from there. We're going to do some serious pyramids tomorrow. Make sure you're there. No, not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be doing stars. I'll be teaching you chapter 6, unit 6 for physics. Okay? There are so many things I want to tell you there. All right.